Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
All right, so here's the promised bonus episode of Whiskey Congress. It's we talked about the stuff we want to talk about, and there's just too much going on these days. Still drinking the Colonel Stagg Jr. bourbon.
No, it's just...
It's not Colonel?
It's just Stagg Jr.
All right, whatever.
I don't know where you got Colonel from.
I don't know either. Anyway.
You're thinking of Colonel E.H. Taylor.
You're absolutely right, I am.
That's not this, though.
You are correct, thank you.
Bottles don't even look the same.
All right. I think we've addressed this enough.
But oddly enough, they do both come from Buffalo Trace Distillery.
There we go.
You didn't know that.
You told me that earlier.
You didn't know Colonel.
You told me that
Colonel Taylor.
You know what? You
didn't know Colonel Taylor came from Buffalo Trace.
You want to mess with me? Is this what you want?
Are you challenging me on whiskey? Is that what you're doing?
So back to what we were talking about before. We finished talking about R. Kelly. That gets him fired up. And now we're going straight into something that I think is a really interesting discussion. And that is the role of Twitter on the world and on free speech and how they've deplatformed so many people and the claims that they are left-leaning / left, left-leaning, whatever.
Here's a couple things. I love Twitter mostly because you have a very short number of characters to try to make a relatively profound statement, right? Like,
okay.
So
you pretty much run at Whiskey Congress on Twitter.
Right.
Most of the time you're hearing from Steve.
Right.
Not 100%, but most of the time.
And what it forces you to do is you want to make a profound statement, right? And it's just like, damn it, I only have 242 characters. So you have to really parse it down, and it makes you get to your point. And which is good for me because sometimes I drag on too long, as anyone who listens to our show knows. But it does really kind of condense information. Now, the problem is that everyone has access to it. So that standard thing with social media, yay, everyone has a voice. And damn it, everyone has a voice. So you get a lot of noise and a lot of bullshit and a lot of lies and a lot of false information and everything else. So Twitter has some value, but then there's some negatives that go along with it as well. And then there's also porn.
And there's the porn, and there's also the fact that the president uses that as his chief form of...
Now, listen, kudos to him on that, because what he has done is he recognized that it's a way to very quickly control the narrative, right? He tweets and it moves the needle.
Sure. Oh, no doubt.
And so kudos to him for not being afraid to take advantage of it. Like, right? Obama would have never touched Twitter, right? And then even now, with him not being the president, he only uses it at very certain select times, right? To make very, generic statements like, hey, it's Martin Luther King Day, or, oh, that's a terrible tragedy, or Happy Veterans Day, or whatever, and Trump uses it all the time to talk to his base and get his side of things out there. Could be dangerous, right? I mean, all this stuff is being archived, and some of the stuff that he puts out there, like AOC, I think that sometimes Trump's mouth moves faster than his brain. And there are things that he has had to walk back. And, if...
Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't.
Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But if he's going to walk something back, it's going to be on Twitter.
Sure.
He's not going to do it in an interview. He's not going to do it at a press conference. He's going to do it on Twitter. And for him to be able to figure out how to use the tool the way that he has, I have to give him props for that. It's a bad thing if you're on the progressive left and you don't like what he says, right? Because there are certain people who, no matter what Trump says, right, no matter what he says, they're going to hate it. Right? Sure. I mean, Trump could literally say, hey, I'm giving you $1 million. And there are people who would run the other way, face first into a wall, just because it's coming from Trump. But the reality is that he's used it, he's turned it into a really, really valuable tool for himself and for his administration that I think future presidents who are saying things that other people like more will appreciate.
Well, and the criticism of Twitter by the left, by the right, is that people on the left get different treatment than those on the right, and they point to the Proud Boys with Gavin McInnes and how they're kicked off, and Alex Jones, how he got kicked off, and the whole thing is like, what is legitimate reasons for getting kicked off Twitter, and getting kicked off of a platform is to some degree censorship, right? I mean, you can argue what's a right and what's a
so there's
privilege.
2 things here. One, technically, not technically. Listen, Twitter is a private corporation.
Yeah.
Right? They're their own platform. You play by their rules.
But they're influential.
Yes, but that doesn't matter. They're still private. And they have control over their platform and what you say and what you do on it. When you sign up, all that stuff that no one agrees that no one reads,
but they all agree
in terms to the terms of service and use and all that other stuff. Guess what? You're at their control, right? It doesn't matter what you say. You could say, I like
having
pepperoni.
sex with goats that are on fire. That's it's a Richard Jenny joke.
Oh my God, damn it!
That's a long. It's a great joke.
At least pick a good comment.
Richard Jenny is fucking great. Don't you disrespect the late great Richard Jenny.
But you could say, I like pepperoni pizza. And they could say, you know what? Fuck you, band. They could. They won't, but they could. Right? It's their platform. Now, the other part of it is what conservatives want is they want Facebook, Twitter, and to a much lesser extent, maybe like an Instagram. But Facebook and Twitter, because those are the main 2 big social media movers, they want those treated like public utilities.
Right.
And if that's what you want, okay, fine, but that's not what we have, right? And so if you want that, then you're going to have to fight for legislation, and you're going to have to figure out how to take a private corporate entity and make it a public utility, right? And that's, like, from a legal standpoint, it's over my head.
From a political standpoint, it's a mess too, right? Because the free market people...
It's one and the same.
Okay.
Right, I mean...
But the free market people are going to say, leave the market alone, capitalism wins, make that the thing that drives innovation, and then the flip side is, well, if it's what drives innovation and what drives financial growth, then you got to deal with the other side.
Right. I mean, and that's the part that I think what pisses conservative people off most, or not just conservative. I mean, because there's some people who've been booted off Twitter or who have chosen to leave Twitter because they felt like they weren't, treated a certain way, because what they say is a little bit different than what aligns with aligns with Twitter, right? And Jack, right? Whatever.
Jack Dorsey.
Yeah. So you have those people, and those people are pissed because, the people we don't agree with are able to say whatever they want, but I have to walk on eggshells and say things a certain way. Otherwise, I risk being banned. When you have literally people on the progressive left who say, fuck the president, and I hope you die, and, I'll rape your babies, and all that. They say terrible, gross shit. They do. I mean, listen, you can go, and if they're progressive, left, liberal, Antifa, whoever, they get away with saying horrific, mean, brutal shit all the time. Right? A conservative says something like, we should get rid of affirmative action, and they're labeled a racist, and then they get a strike, and then the next thing you know, they're banned off of Twitter. Now, is it that extreme? Kind of, yeah, sort of is. Or if you have a conservative person who doesn't agree, and the big example on the Rogan show was a debate about transgender people, right? Like, if you're born a man with a penis, and then you convert to a woman, you can call yourself whatever you want to, but biologically you're still a man. And then the person who said that biologically you're a man, that person got banned from Twitter. That's Twitter. That's censorship. That's them. That's not that person didn't say anything that wasn't true based off of science, right? Like a transgender person,
or their stance on a scientific issue.
We don't have medically we don't have that in between term yet. Transsexuality, right?
It's a new thing for us to deal with society.
Right. We don't have a medical, biological Like, other than trans, like, you've got male and female, right? Like, so if you go in the medical books, they're going to show you a male, they're going to show you a female. They're not going to show you a male, a female, and a trans male and a trans female, right? We're not there yet.
Yeah, right.
When we get there, maybe, I don't know. It seems like that's what everybody wants, so okay, fine, whatever. But we're not there yet. And it's still something that is open for debate. But on Twitter, apparently it's not, because if you say a man born with a penis that, you know, removes that penis and then identifies as a woman is still technically a man, that gets you banned off Twitter. Right? And they're saying that, well, then you're going after that person and that person, you know, like their feelings and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But still, Twitter is controlling the narrative. They're censoring. That's exactly what they're doing. Now, people want to say that's illegal, they can't do it. Yeah, the fuck they can. Because technically they're still a private corporation and you sign up for their terms of agreement and their terms of use. So you don't have to like it. And guess what? They don't have to play fair. That's the other thing. People are like, well, it's not fair. Again, read the fine print. The
rule ain't fair.
The fine print is not fair. Right? I mean, and that's the part where people are getting tripped up. So what you need to happen is that you have to push for legislation that changes what these two things are. Right, and they're specific and they're special, right? So maybe it's only Facebook and maybe it's only Twitter, right? And maybe you can loop Instagram in there, or if you want to loop whatever Twitter and Facebook own, right? Any sort of social media is a public utility that is subject to First Amendment rights, and therefore you can't censor unless, you know, you have these defined rules of what a threat is, right? Or what abusive behavior is, right? And it's controlled by an objective body.
That's impossible to define.
It agreed, but that's what you would need to do to make everybody happy in this situation.
So that's what it says. The question is Twitter, which is clearly the social media choice of the president and the social media choice of a lot of celebrities and the best way to get your word heard, do they have any responsibility or, you know, right to censor and or criticize? Because right now they don't.
Well, I mean, so your question is do they have the right to do what they're doing?
Yeah, or the right to do their private company, right?
Yes.
So if you're a capitalist,
yes.
If you're a capitalist, you say,
and there are people who are going to say, no, they can't, because, like, if you let these people, you have to. No, I don't have to let you do. It's my company,
right?
Right. If I'm Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, if I'm being honest, right? If I'm a drunk, like, we'll put it this way: if I'm drunk Mark Zuckerberg, and you've got me on Congress, and you say I ain't got to let y'all do shit. It's my motherfucking platform. I ain't gotta let you do a motherfucking thing.
Drunk Southern Steve representing Mark Zuckerberg.
I can boot you off my platform for waking up in the morning. I don't give a shit. I love this. And that's the thing.
You're not wrong.
And people want to get mad as fuck about that, and you can get as mad about it as you want, and you can yell and scream at me. But I will sit there and slap you in the face with multiple books.
Please don't. Okay.
Books. You know, I mean, good multiple books. No.
When you said I will slap you in the face with, I'm like, I know what
No. On agency and contract law and just because that's the bottom line. Like, these guys are playing nice, right? Zuckerberg and Dorsey, like, they're playing nice and going to Congress, and they're trying to. They haven't come out and said it, and that's why they're better men than me. Because in some of these congressional hearings, just like, one, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Two, it's my company, and I do what the fuck I want. Right? But they're not going to say that politically, and it's probably the responsible thing to do, but I've been known to be irresponsible from time to time when talking
Sometimes you speak your mind.
Right. Like, that's the reality of the situation. So how do we fix it? Right, now how we fix it.
All right, so let's bring it, because that's the real question. How do we fix it?
How you fix it requires legislation that you're going to have to get Zuckerberg and Dorsey to buy into, which you may be able to do, but it's not going to be easy. And even once you get to that point where you've basically taken social media, which basically started with a way to hook up with chicks, right? And for celebrities to connect with their fans, you've basically taken these two platforms and now you're trying to flip them into a public utility. Like that's not something that's easy to do. And how do you write this legislation to incorporate future platforms, and what are the rules, and how do you define what is what and what is allowed to be said, and what
anytime you try to censor, for lack of a better word, which is not even a better word, it's the right word. Anytime you say you can or cannot say this, you're going into real dangerous ground that I don't want to be in.
Right.
Now,
or do you say it's a public utility, so all bets are off? You say whatever you want. Say whatever you want, and
that's also dangerous, right?
Other than a bona fide death threat, or a bona fide crime, then you say what you want, right? And then who dictates it, right? Because what's good in the United States may not be good in Australia. What's good in Australia may not be good. That was a big point
brought up by these guys, was that when they got challenged by Tim Pool about your rules are this, your rules are that, those don't follow the United States free speech rules, they replied, we're not just in the United States. I mean, 75% of Twitter accounts are international, so we're not accountable to U.S. standards, and maybe they shouldn't be.
Well,
I mean, they call it globalist. I'm like, that is technically globalist.
There's certain things, like in certain countries, there's certain things that they don't want on Twitter, and they don't want people in their country to be able to use. Like, I'm sure Saudi Arabia,
for example,
has some restrictions that Twitter abides by.
I mean, I told you my story about my friend that was in Dubai, and she and I were trading text messages, and I texted her something that was a bit racy. She was like, please don't do that. They monitor everything here.
Oh, right, yeah.
And so, that was literally a text message. She was afraid it was going to get her locked up. Now, things didn't work out with us, so I wouldn't mind if she went right.
Ooh,
but no, I'm bitter. I'm angry.
Ooh,
but
damn.
Not true, Cindy.
Bitch, you petty.
I am petty. Bitch, you petty. Yeah, Cindy, you're my girl. But, but really, no, she's not actually. She's not. That was a disaster waiting to happen. But anyway, the fact is, she was terrified.
I think she just basically used Dubai to get you to stop sending dick pics.
It's fun. I never sent a dick pic.
That's what happened.
And
she's like, "Oh, I'm in Dubai. I don't want to see your dick."
She didn't need a pic. All right, this is how it's gonna go. This episode's
Do you have a job yet?
I got a job. Yeah, fuck you. By the way, fuck you, Steve. All the people who sent me messages saying, Jim, get a job, because of this asshole. I have a job. I am self-employed. I have projects. I got something new starting up next week.
Oh, do you?
I do.
Oh, yeah. I got something new coming. Just you wait. I'll show all of you.
How you fired your day off? I have a job. I'm gainfully employed.
Okay.
Thank you. I would say thank you. I'm sorry. Fuck you to all you who sent me messages telling me to get a damn job. This guy. All right.
I'll take you to Soup Kitchen after this. We'll get you. Make sure we get you fed.
You're such an asshole. Anything else on Twitter before we go on?
No, I mean,
good,
I just...
Good. No, good. Because, all right, so let's do some personal shit between you and I. Because Antonio Brown was rumored to be on his way to the Bills and essentially said, fuck that shit, I ain't going to Buffalo. So, fuck you, Antonio Brown. You can say fuck you, Antonio Brown, too, because you already get some shit back. You know what?
You know what? So this is a weird situation. Antonio Brown wanted a trade, wanted out of Pittsburgh. And a lot of it, I think, a lot of it is about money. He wants a new contract, even though he's under a pretty decent contract. He wants a new contract. He wants it front-loaded with guaranteed money, which who wouldn't?
Right.
And the other part of it, which is a fair amount, is that Ben Roethlisberger, as good of a quarterback as he is, he's not the best teammate in that he will throw his guys under the bus, no problem. He's got a weekly radio show in Pittsburgh every Tuesday after the games. And, I mean, he literally just throws guys under the bus. You know, Juju ran the wrong route. Antonio wasn't where he was supposed to be. Or Antonio's got to catch that ball. Jesse James got to do this.
Protect me from the rape charges.
Right. Le'Veon Bell didn't do this, that, whatever. And I heard it. It is what it is. Right. But that to me is the bigger issue, right? A lot of this has to do with Ben. Ben is not the best leader, right? Ben is not a Peyton Manning. He's not a Tom Brady. Ben is a good quarterback. He's big. He's strong. He can put the ball in places where only one guy can get it. He can throw the ball. He throws one of the best long balls down the field as anybody in the league. But Ben also can do really dumb shit on the field. And he'll do really blatantly dumb shit on the fucking field, and then turn around.
I've never sat next to you at a bar when that happened, by the way.
But he'll turn around and then he'll blame the receiver, and I don't know the play, I don't know the route that the receiver was supposed to run, so I kind of have to what am I supposed to say? Ben says he was in the wrong spot. He was in the wrong spot, but this reaction from Antonio Brown leads me to believe that I don't think Ben is being 100% honest. In some of these scenarios where he's blaming receivers, where it's just him being lazy on the field. And so I think Antonio Brown's protest is, if the Steeler organization is going to put Ben on a pedestal and every other player is a step below him or more, then, I'm tired of being thrown under the bus. From a statistic standpoint, I'm either 1A or 1B best receiver in the league, and I don't need his bullshit. And so I think that's basically what this has come down to, which is really a shame. I think this was handled wrong from the top down. In terms of Tomlin, he should have reined in Brown a long time ago, but he should have reined in Ben a long time ago, right? He should have told Ben to shut the fuck up. You go on your radio show, you really talk about generic, Peyton Manning, Michael Jordan, don't ruffle any feathers, all that sort of thing. And then, you get back to work. And he should have reined in Brown with his behavior, because Antonio Brown is in love with Antonio Brown, right? I mean, he just he's a diva receiver, and which I don't really care, which is fine. But now the problem is, when you've got a diva receiver and a diva quarterback, you've got a problem. And when your quarterback's the leader, the quarterback needs to be the one who's able to settle, who's able to calm the issues down, right, and bring his guy back into the circle. And Ben didn't do that. Instead of bringing him in, he would put him out to pasture, and then try to just say, hey, you ran the wrong route, you fucked it up, you're the reason we lost the game, but hey, we're all buddies, we're all teammates, come on back in the circle, right? And that's on Ben. And more of this should fall on Ben Roethlisberger than it is, but it is what it is. So now, fast forwarding back, or coming back to what you were talking about last night, there was no way in hell Antonio Brown was about to allow himself to be traded to Buffalo.
I'm taking that as a shot at me.
It's not, but I mean, listen,
but you're not wrong.
Listen, I mean, I told you earlier, I think Josh Allen, the quarterback from Buffalo, was developing towards the end of the season, and really, he may be turning the corner. Will he lead you guys to a Super Bowl? I don't know. Not. The sooner Tom Brady can retire, the better your odds change there. But the kid showed some potential. Strong arm, big kid, willing to run, athletic, can make some really good throws, but also can make some really, really bad throws. Yes. Not Nathan Peterman bad, but pretty bad. He also didn't have good receivers, right? I mean, your best.
Robert Foster was probably our best receiver.
Robert Foster,
he was
Zay Jones. I mean, the two of those guys combined couldn't hold a candle to Antonio Brown.
Absolutely true.
So if you put Antonio Brown on the Buffalo Bills, what happens, right? All of a sudden, you open up a running game for LaShawn McCoy, who spent the year getting his ass beat in because no one was afraid of the pass, right? So could that have worked? It absolutely probably could have, but Antonio Brown wasn't going to let it happen because he's kind of only looking at things on the surface. He looked at it like the average fan would look at Buffalo and say, ooh, yeah, I don't want to go there. I think if I'm his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, I would say maybe there's some potential there, right? Or maybe he just shut it down and was like, listen, I played my entire career in Pittsburgh. It's cold as fuck here in the winter. I am not going to Buffalo where it's even fucking colder. Sorry.
He went to Central Michigan, right?
Yes.
So
again,
he ain't afraid of Buffalo.
He's from Miami.
Oh,
and
is he? Right.
He's from Liberty City. He chances are maybe he just wanted to be somewhere warm. Who knows?
I don't blame him for that. I mean, this week I don't blame someone for that. This week was brutal.
Right. From a football perspective, I think he may have. I think there was a little bit more potential there than he gave it credit for, but I could see why. Listen, I've been playing with a Hall of Fame quarterback my entire career. Sorry, I'm not going to Josh Allen. Right? And maybe that's his argument.
As much as I am not a fan of Ben Roethlisberger as a human being, he's a great quarterback. And Josh Allen, to be determined.
Right.
I am not.
And that's true. I mean, it is.
How many times have you sat next to me in a bar watching me cuss out Josh Allen for
plenty of times? Right? And listen, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger was, well, he did go 15-1 his rookie season or whatever it was, or 13-2. I forget what. I mean, his rookie year was ridiculous. But after that, Ben was good, but he wasn't great, and he did plenty of things to frustrate you, right? And then he got a lot better, but he still does the same dumb shit that frustrates you. And Josh Allen obviously didn't have the same type of rookie year that Ben did, but he didn't have the same team around him. Or the same strength of a coach.
1 year. Like, give him 3.
Right. Like, so, I mean, there's time. So, all this to say, there's some drama around Antonio Brown and what's happening with him. And, you know, there's some other stuff, too. I mean, like, the one thing is, you know, he wanted out of Pittsburgh because of money and because of Ben and all that other shit. But he's done himself no favors with his media tour. And maybe part of the reason why he hasn't been traded. And so what happens if all of a sudden the trade market dries up, teams are pulled out, you know, Buffalo's pulled out, Washington's pulled out, Arizona's pulled out, all these other teams are pulled out, and, you know, March 17th, you know, or March whatever.
13th is the...
well, I forget, like Pittsburgh owes him...
The new season starts...
Pittsburgh owes him a roster bonus, I believe, on the 17th of March, for $2 million. So they don't want to pay that, which is why they want to trade him away based off of his behavior. But if they can't, like, they're not going to accept a third-round pick for him. So if they don't accept a third-round pick for him, and they have to pay him a $2 million roster bonus, do they end up keeping him on the team, or do they cut him? Right? If they cut him, or trade him, no matter what, they end up paying $20 million. It's dead money. No matter what, whether they trade him and he signs a new contract or he's cut, they still have to pay $20 million in dead money. So, if that's the case, do they then keep him and then force his hand to see if he'll sit out? Will he pull a Le'Veon Bell and just sit out and not play? Because then if he does that, that's like the only way that gets them from under the, you know, the thumb of that heavy cap hit.
We'll see.
You know, I don't know.
He has pushed all in, right? He has said, "Trade me or I'm gone," and now he's saying, "Trade me, but I'm not going to Buffalo." Allegedly,
right? I mean, he can't trade me or I'm gone is not really an option, right? He's under contract for another 2 years,
right.
So
but he doesn't have to walk on the field,
right? I mean, he can not walk on the field, but then he doesn't get paid, right? And so if he
got no job, is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, he got no job, but he also has $70 million over the last few years, so it's a little bit different.
Than what, Steve?
Than you.
Okay, fair.
But. You know, I mean, so it's a really unique situation. We'll see how it goes with him. This is the first time I've really seen my team in turmoil like this in a while.
As much as I don't like the Steelers, I will say that they have been a stable organization for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you got...
And the family, the Rooney family, has always had I don't want to say standard, and we can go through this discussion down a long road, but they've generally been an organization that tries to avoid drama.
They do,
and this is drama.
Yeah, and they've had it for the last couple of years, and with the situation with Le'Veon Bell sitting out for the entire year, because of his contract situation, and then them opting to go ahead and not tag him again just to be done with it, just tells you that they didn't want to have to deal with all that. So it has been trying, and you've had players at the end of the year come out and say, there was so much drama going on. We felt like the Kardashians. That came from Jesse James, who's a tight end who says nothing, right, in the media. And then at the end of the season, he says that. So obviously something's going on. And the question is, how do they deal with it, right? As a team, as an organization, as a coaching staff, Mike Tomlin, I love Mike Tomlin, but he is under a lot of heat and a lot of pressure. Maybe for the first time in his career, he may legitimately be on a hot seat. And if it's not hot, it's warm and getting warmer. So the question is, what do they get? Do they get Antonio Brown back? Can they smooth this over? Do they say, all right, you know what? Since we're
Is that a possibility? You think there's any chance that he's a Steeler come the start of the season?
If I'm Kevin Colbert,
who is the GM of the Steelers,
and I don't get a first round pick for Antonio Brown, or a high second round pick, right? Like someone who's picking, in the top five spots.
What about a second and a fifth?
No.
No?
I want a top 5 second, 33 through
38,
maybe
whatever.
38 in the second round, right? So those are the first 5 picks in the second round. If I'm not getting that for Antonio Brown, then maybe I go back to the table and say, look, you made yourself untradeable. We can't trade you. We're not going to cut you because we're just losing money, and we're not going to lose you for nothing. So, since we're not paying Le'Veon Bell, how about we work your contract? We'll front load it with, I don't know, $40 million guaranteed over the course of 3 years. What do you think about that? That's what I would go back to it with, and say, smooth it over. We'll talk to Ben, rein him in. If that's your issue, can we put this to bed and see where it goes? I don't know if he would accept it. That's what I would do though at this point. Because now, if you're not going to get back that high draft pick of that, where you have the potential to put another high value piece on your team, you're not going to get San Francisco's pick. You're not going to get Arizona's pick, one of those picks in the top 10 or top 15. So you have 2 high level first round picks. If you're not going to get that, then you can't lose a receiver of that with that type of productivity for virtually nothing. So you have to go back to the drawing board and say, how can we rectify this? We would love to trade you based off of what you've said and done, but we can't, right? The only teams that want you are places that you don't want to go to.
Yeah.
So how do we fix this? Here's,
What are the odds of that happening?
I don't know.
0?
I don't know if it's 0. I don't know if it's 0. I don't know. I mean, because I think truly in their heart of hearts, they want to keep Antonio Brown. I think everyone's emotional right now. So once everyone sees that he has killed his own market, then you have a little bit of leverage on him, right?
I think you're right about the leverage part. I do not see him resigning.
I think his agent is Drew Rosenhaus. As obnoxious as Drew Rosenhaus can be, he's a pretty smart guy who's made a lot of money. So let's see what happens.
All right. So we'll see what happens there. I have my doubts. There's the Cleveland sports fan LeBron situation. So LeBron ain't going to the playoffs. Now he just passed.
Well, we don't know if he's not going to the playoffs.
He's not going to the playoffs.
We don't know that. Who knows? But it doesn't look like the Lakers are going to make it to the playoffs. But he did pass Michael Jordan on the all-time scoring list. He went from number 5, and he is now number 4.
All right.
And it was interesting. Did you see it at all?
No.
So when he did it, they made the announcement at the Staples Center, and LeBron was sitting at the end of the bench, basically by himself. Right? There were about 3 seats between him and everybody else. And the crowd at the Staples Center was kind of neutral on it.
Sure.
And
I mean, they're more passionate about Kobe than they're about LeBron.
They are. And I think in that moment, and this is pure speculation, but I think in that moment, I think that's when LeBron realized he made a mistake in going to LA.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Go ahead.
And I think that LeBron went to LA because of everything that he's doing with movies. He's got the barbershop show. He's got a couple of movies coming out.
Barbershop show is cool, by the way.
It's great. I love it. He's got, which we should talk. It's the Shop.
Yeah, The Shop. Thank you.
He's got some Netflix specials that he's doing, and he's doing a lot of things Hollywood. Great, but I think the basketball lover player in LeBron, the kid from Akron, the guy who brought a championship to Cleveland, I think that guy misses Cleveland. I think in that moment he realized, man, this would have been so much better in Cleveland. Everything about it would have been better. I think that the fans would have embraced it more. I think that the organization would have done a better job of highlighting the accomplishment that it was. I think that he would have been surrounded by even more people who would have appreciated it, from a business perspective. It just would have meant so much more. And I think in that moment, he recognized it. He knew it, that he made a mistake in going to LA from a basketball perspective. Maybe for business, maybe it was the right move. And I think that he's looking back on this year. He spent, almost a majority of the year injured. They're talking about controlling his minutes. He's got a team that hasn't quite come together. There's been drama and everything else. And I think at that moment in time, I'm not saying he'll regret it forever, but at that moment he said, damn, I wish this was happening in Cleveland. I wish I was in, the wine and gold right now, kind of celebrating this moment. And, LA is a town where they love superstars and they love the bright lights, but they don't, they're a sports town in that they love the celebrity of it, but they're not quite, it's not like Cleveland, and it's not like a Kansas City with the football team, or St. Louis with the Cardinals, or, Buffalo with the Sabres when they're good, or Philly with the Flyers when they're good, or so on. You know what I mean? Like, it's just different in LA because you have so many transplants, because of the money and the fame and Hollywood and everything else. So that's what I think. I think he regretted it.
We'll see.
And we'll see how it all shakes out. This season, if they don't make the playoffs, then one, he'll have more time to rest than he's had in God knows how long. That's
a big point.
And the other thing is
2004, by the way.
Right.
Last time he did not make the playoffs, 2004.
14 years ago. I was in college still.
Whatever.
So maybe on my way to law school, or in law school in 2004.
Whatever.
So I'm just saying.
It's a long damn time ago.
It is, but it's just it's a sad situation if that's the case. So
well, he's not going to make the playoffs. It will be literally a long ass time since he didn't. And I agree with something you were about to say, and that was that he might benefit from some time off because he has played an extra however many games for however long. So LA may benefit from his time off. Real quick, I want to make fun of President Trump a little bit because he called Tim Cook Tim Apple, which is embarrassing. But there's really nothing to add on that other than he said that. Tim, you've done a great job. Okay, Tim Apple. Yeah, that's his name. His name is Tim Cook. But
all right, buddy. Apple. Well, I think it's about time to wrap it up.
Wrap it up? All right.
Wrap it up, B.
So we're wrap it up. Thank you for listening to Whiskey Congress, the continued episode. We are at Whiskey Congress on all social media, and that's about it. So thank you.